Hi Professor, my full name is Vũ Trần Thanh Ngan, or you can call me David for short. And my student ID is 991663076. Today I'd like to show you my individual presentation through the PowerPoint app. My topic is Are humans overpopulated? Today, my agenda has four main parts. Firstly, I want to define exactly what overpopulation is through the first part. Then I will answer the question whether our Earth is really overpopulated or not in part 2. Finally, I will show part 3 and 4 for serious, effective and solutions to overpopulation. So we will start with part 1. What is overpopulation? According to Wikipedia, overpopulation or overabundance is a phenomenon in which a species population becomes larger than the carrying capacity of its environment. This may be caused by increased birth rates, lower mortality rates, reduced predation, or large-scale migration. All of them will lead to the overabundant species and other animals in the ecosystem competing for food, space, and resources. So the question is that, is our Earth really overpopulated? And to answer this question, my response is certainly yes. To be more specific, I have some evidence that is quite obvious here. We are currently 7.8 billion people, and the United Nations predicts an increase in up almost 3.5 billion by 2100 if current trends continue. Our population is obvious if we compare the population in 1960 with 3 billion to today's. Meanwhile, many scientists think the Earth has a maximum carrying capacity of 9 billion to 10 billion people. One such scientist, Edward Wilson, bases his estimate on calculations of the Earth's available resources. According to the UN, about two-thirds of the predicted growth in population between 2020 and 2050 will take place in Africa. By 2100, the UN projects the population in sub-Saharan Africa will reach 3.8 billion. While IHME projects 3.1 billion and IIASA is the lowest at 2.6 billion. One more actual evidence of current overpopulation is that we are requiring the use of resources faster than they renew, like fossil fuels, to extract, store, and distribute the subsistence necessary to keep our numbers alive. Now, we will continue with part 3 about serious effects of overpopulation. It is only logical that an increase in the world's population will cause additional strains on resources. More people means an increased demand for food, water, housing, energy, healthcare, transportation, and more. And all that consumption contributes to ecological degradation, increased conflicts, and a higher risk of large-scale disasters like pandemics. For ecological degradation, an increase in population will inevitably create pressures leading to more deforestation, decreased biodiversity, and spikes in population and emissions, which will exacerbate climate change. Ultimately, unless we take action to help minimize further population growth heading into the remainder of this century, many scientists believe the additional stress on the planet will lead to ecological disruption and collapse so severe it threatens the viability of life on Earth as we know it. Each spike in the global population had a measurable impact on the planet's health. According to estimates, sorry so much. According to estimates in a study by Nicholas at 2017, a family having one fewer child could reduce emissions by 58.6 tons CO2 equivalent per year in developed countries. The next one is increased conflicts. The scarcity brought about by environmental disruption and overpopulation has the potential to trigger an increase in violence and political unrest. We're already seeing wars fought over water, land, and energy resources in the Middle East and other regions, and the turmoil is likely to increase as the global population grows even larger. And the last effect that I focus on is the higher risk of disaster and pandemics. You know, like COVID-19 or the SARS outbreak, which was notified of the outbreak in February 2003 and issued a global alert in March 2003. And the last one, if population growth is unsustainable, are there human ways to limit it? Today, my first solution is empower women. Studies show that women with access to reproductive health services find it easier to break out of poverty, while those who work are more likely to use birth control. The United States, the United Nations Population Fund aims to tackle both issues at once, running microcredit projects to turn young women into advocates for reproductive health. Next, the second solution is promote family planning. Simply educating men and women about contraception can have a big impact. When Iran, for example, when Iran introduced a national family planning program in 1989, its fertility rate fell from 5.6 births per woman to 2.6 in a decade. A similar effort in Rwanda saw a threefold increase in contraception usage in just 5 years. And the last one is government incentives. Those at UK charity Population Matters believe there should be a senior government official responsible for addressing population-related issues. They urge governments to promote responsible parenthood and say subsidies should be limited to the first two children unless the family is living in poverty. And that's all for my presentation today. Sorry so much for my speaking because I have been staying in Canada for just 2 months. So thank you so much for listening my presentation. Bye bye.